Right, it's the 18th of August now. And we're going to carry on with activity 7.13, page 175. We've finished all of this. We've done the input box component for adding a certain number of learners, and we're going to possibly change that number to 4 so we don't have to type in so many marks in this capture button. And in the test total, we're going to add, we added the total that the test is out of. So we did that yesterday. In the capture button, we decided only let's make it 4 marks. The array, it's not array, 4 marks. And we ask the user to enter a mark, and then we val that string to see if it is an integer. And we continue doing that until our code is 0. So in other words, that's the first mark. And then we add that first mark to the list box. So k is 1. Then k is 2. This repeat loop will happen again. And then we put the mark in the list box. And then k is 3. This repeat loop will happen for the third time, where we're going to ask the user to enter a mark and val, and we'll complete and do that until our code is 0. So we'll have a valid integer. And then we're going to put that into the list box. Take note, we're not converting it to an integer, we're just putting it into the list box. And then when k is 4, we do that for the last time. This is going to be repeated until our code is 0. Then we add the 4th mark to the list box, and then we're at the end. Now, the code for that was the capture button. The test total button, we did a similar thing yesterday. We used a loop, a repeat loop, to continually asking the user to enter a mark until it's a valid mark. In other words, it's an integer. So we used val there to test that the string that the user typed can be converted to an integer. And if it can, then our code will be 0. And that's why we have this repeat. And this is a classic example of a repeat until loop. In fact, this is possibly one of the very few times that you will use a repeat loop in high school. So we are now learning about repeat loops just by accident, really, but this is the best example of using a repeat loop. And probably the only one. But we'll see in activities that come up. So repeat loop means that you have to do it at least once. There has to be one set of instructions will be followed, and then only at the end will we check to see if the loop must continue. That is that until part, that criteria. Because if our code is not equal to 0, then we have to get the mark again and val it again. And if it's still not equal to 0, then we've got to get the mark again and then val that mark. And then maybe our code is 0, and then the repeat loop will stop. After that, we can safely convert S mark to an integer and store it into our global variable called iTestTotal. Now, basically, all I've done is repeated everything that we did yesterday. So now we're going to move on to here. It says add data validation to prevent the user from entering a number smaller than 0 or larger than the maximum of the test. So in other words, when we go and capture the marks, we must make sure the number is not less than 0, and also make sure that it's not larger than the maximum of the test. So we can do that in our loop. We've got this val, okay, but now we have to test. Again, we have to test the mark. If the mark is, so if, but the thing is, this is going to have to be done in a loop as well, you know, because we can't, we've tested the mark here until our code is equal to 0, but actually what we can do, we can put in our till, yeah, this might be easier to handle it here, in the until part, the till condition. Then we can say until our code equals 0, put that around brackets, and string to int S mark is greater than naught, and then we have to put another and, lots of conditions, string to int s mark is less than or equal to I test mark. I will put this on less than or equal to I test mark. Now, this is hectic. I test, what? Test total, is it? I think it's called test total. I can't remember. Yeah. Okay. What I'm going to do is put this on 2 lines so you can see it better. And that and that. Now that's quite a big thing to do, hey? We can't stop a for loop, people. You cannot put code in to stop a for loop. But a repeat loop, this is going to be checking each mark. So let's see how it's going to work. We also use it to enter a mark. We valid, but only until s mark is greater than naught and s mark is less than or equal to test total. Now, putting these conditions here would sound like that's logically English, you know, but we could rather check over here. If our code is equal to naught, then we're going to go and check the rest. We'll have a different condition over here. Begin and end. So we can valid over here. We get our code. Okay, if it's naught, this until section we're going to worry about. We're going to change it later. There's no point changing it now because we first playing with some code here. What we're going to do, if our code is naught, then we can convert string to int s mark, not so. If string to int s mark is greater than naught, and string to s mark, so we can put it over here instead. So we have to put it in brackets. Is less than test total. Then we can say b found. Then b valid. We make this valid equals true. Else b valid equals false. So this repeat loop will carry on until b valid equals true. So we have what we call a Boolean flag. You might have heard of Boolean flags, maybe you haven't. Well, I doubt that you have, but we use them to do this sort of thing. To keep track of something, and then at the end we can actually use the Boolean flag to stop a loop. You see, in this else part, we can do the following. We can show a message. Please enter. Actually, no, you can, yeah, we can actually, wait, what will happen is, what will happen is enter a mark. No, that we don't have to show a message. We just say b valid equals false. We don't have to show a message. We're going to check how this runs. Of course, b valid has to be declared as a variable. Hey, that would be a good idea, I'm sure. So inside our repeat until, we've got a lot of code. Remember, repeat and until act as our begins and ends. So repeat until acts like a begin and end. It doesn't have begin and end, it just has repeat, and then all the instructions will be followed. In the until part, it checks, is B valid true? Well, if it's false, then all of those instructions are going to continue again. Now, B valid is a Boolean variable that we must now go and declare. B valid, colon, Boolean. We do not have to set it to anything, because guess why? We are setting it over here. And of course we need to have a colon equal. And in the until part, that's your condition, we don't have any colon in front of the equal sign. Now this is quite hectic, so let's run the program and see if it works. And that should be interesting, and then we'll troubleshoot it if it doesn't. Right, now we're capturing. Now I've got to put in a mark. Oh, before I do that, cancel. I've never. All right, I want to get out of this. Okay, cancel, run, program reset. Because why? I've got to get my test total first and then capture the marks. That's why. So let's click the test total first. Let's add the mark out of 50. All right, and then we go to capture, and let's put in some marks. And let's put in another mark. And then I'm going to put in a -9. Oops, -9. It doesn't going to go. It's asking me to enter student number 3 again. See that? All right, if I go and put in a 52, which is over 50 for student number 4, it's asking me to please enter it again. And it's not telling me enter again, but it's saying I've only got the 3 numbers there. Student number 4, they want me to enter again. If I put a letter of the alphabet, it's going to ask me, still asking me for student number 4's number. So I will put an 8, and there we go. And now it's finished. So that does work perfectly fine. Gets the numbers in. And this is basically making sure that the program is user-friendly. In other words, if the user can't make a mistake in inputting values. So we've covered this section over here where it says add data validation to prevent the user number from entering a smaller number than 0 or larger than the maximum test. So, how do you feel about that one?